let's talk disaggregation. Disaggregation is also known as non-intrusive load monitoring or load disaggregation. And it's an interesting story. We introduced load disaggregation in the industry. And over the course of 13 years, tremendous progress has been made to a point where every utility wants disaggregation. There are several types of disaggregation. First of all, it's something called true disaggregation, something called hardware-based disaggregation, and there's something called statistical disaggregation. A true disaggregation, which is what we do and we have invented and created in the industry, is truly using appliance signatures. So just like human fingerprints, when an appliance turns on and off, it leaves its own power signature on the whole house smart meter waveform. And the art of extracting a signature of an appliance, like an air conditioner runs very differently from a refrigerator or a water heater, is the art of true disaggregation. It generally goes and looks at the signature down to every hour, every 15 minutes, or every 30 minutes, depending on the data interval, looking for those appliance signatures, which means no two homes are alike, no two appliances are alike. Then you go to hardware-based disaggregation, which needs some kind of a sensor. For example, if I'm putting a plug load, or if I'm pulling data off my thermostat for my heater or cooler, that is hardware-based disaggregation. It's highly accurate, but it is also extremely non-scalable because you cannot go into every single home in millions of homes and plug in every single gadget to be on a sensor. And the third type of disaggregation, which has neither of the benefits, is statistical disaggregation. What that does is it just approximates across large regions of territories or people to say in the city of Austin, everybody uses 25% of their energy in the month of March in cooling. So models which are applied to larger set of customers are called statistical models. And they are trends, but they are not disaggregation of an individual meter or home. One of the questions everybody says is, hey, how accurate is disaggregation? Can I really put in front of my customers? Disaggregation, as we define, has two elements in accuracy. So the first part of accuracy is detection accuracy, which basically says when you have a specific appliance and you are using it, then we are able to detect it. And detect it not just at a month level that, hey, last month you used this much energy in your pool pump or in your heating, but by the hour. So because in today's day and age, it is about managing customers' load, changing the demand curve. So if you cannot go figure out that somebody is using their heating or cooling or pool pump or charging their car in that hour when the congestion is going to happen on the grid, it's not going to be as useful. And generally in these measurements, you have false positive and false negative. The case that you want to avoid is ever talking to a customer about an appliance that they don't have. Okay, that tells the customer outright that you are inaccurate. And then the second part of this accuracy is estimation accuracy. If you used 20 kilowatt hours in an appliance or buy an appliance in a certain period of time of a few hours, how much do we detect it as? The second one is less, I would say, sensitive because most customers have no clue that they used X amount of kilowatt hours, although it is important for business decisions. So there's a certain level of accuracy required. And these accuracies change from season to season based on percentage from home to home. I would say on an average, if you want to take home a single number, I would say Bidgely provides more than 90% detection accuracy and more than 85% estimation accuracy, which is, I would say, the best in the class in the industry. And I would also like to say, when you see marketing numbers from other technology vendors, which are 93% and 98%, I would say they are unrealistic, they are false, and we are happy to come and educate you on asking the right questions. Why do I want disaggregation? It's a nice and shining thing, but what do I do with it? How do I get the most value out of it? So let's start with a few use cases that we can put on the table. The first use case is simple for a customer. I'm a customer and I want to understand my bill. I don't want a bill shock. And the analogy that I've been using for many years is when my credit card bill is higher than normal, I don't call my bank. I look at my credit card bill and I figure out where did I spend more money. However, for decades, when somebody's electricity bill is higher, all they can do is call their utility. And so what disaggregation does for number one for customers is allows them to understand their bill, take charge of their bill, avoid bill shocks, reduce the number of calls coming into call center. So that generates operational benefit and much higher customer satisfaction. In fact, we have delivered over 50% reduction in the high bill calls in the call centers, and we have reduction of over 60% in the call durations. The second use case of disaggregation actually starts going towards targeting. Most programs run by utilities or marketing programs program enrollment into the various energy efficiency, peak demand shifting, thermostat programs, refrigerator recycle programs, pool pump programs, and now we are talking about electric vehicle programs, who to give rebates, who to target, how to recruit people. The cost efficiency of those programs as well as the customer mindshare dilution happens tremendously when you do broadcast marketing. With disaggregation, we have been targeting customers for program enrollment effectively. We have demonstrated over 25% increase in the program enrollment. So on an average, you can get 20 to 30% higher benefit from your program dollars by targeting customers in the right fashion. We integrate with several marketing automation tools in order to build disaggregation going straight into your marketing workflow charts. The third use case that we have been demonstrating of the load disaggregation is in advanced grid planning. When in the presence of complex loads like electric vehicles and batteries and solars growing on the customer grid, it becomes extremely hard for the grid planners to say, when is my load going to blow up the capacity of my transformer or feeder? Because till about, I would say 5 years back, life was same. You have heating, you have cooling, there is seasonal load, there is peak load, and I account for some kind of demand response and I'm done. But now it's very unpredictable. I don't know who is buying EV, at what rate they're charging, and at what rate they're growing, because they are not growing uniformly across my territory. Some of the affluent regions are buying 2 EVs now versus there are other regions where they have no EVs. It becomes very complicated. And load disaggregation brings behind the meter information to say exactly at what rate your EVs are growing, when are people charging, model that by region, by feeder, by substation into your growth models and forecasting models, and boom, I have a much better picture of my grid for grid planners. The first question is, you want to make sure that this is truly personalized disaggregation, which means, am I going to see a different pie or different percentage of heating consumption for every single home on every single month across my entire territory? So is it truly using the appliance signature down to every home and every appliance? The second one is, are you able to learn and get disaggregation or disaggregated itemized breakdown appliance level load down to every hour for every home? Because without that, you are not going to be able to take care of your peak demand reductions and targeting for flexible demand. The third thing you want to understand is, are you only able to predict how many kilowatt hours are being used in the hour, or are you able to detect the deeper part of appliances? For example, what is the fuel type of my appliances? Which homes have heating which is let's say gas based or electric based or oil based or propane based? What is the type of appliance? Do I have a central air conditioner? Do I have a room AC? Or do I have a heat pump? Okay. What is the type of charger? Is it level 1 charger, level 2 charger, level 3 charger? Can you tell me exactly what is the amplitude of the charger? Can you tell me about the efficiency of the appliance? Is my appliance gone inefficient? Is my behavior inefficient? Or is my home insulation not proper? And finally, can you detect degradation? Is my appliance degrading year over year, and therefore there's an urgency for a customer to replace the appliance or service the appliance, or sometimes it is not sized correctly. This is the depth of true disaggregation that you can get from Bidgely. And I would say, if you want to get the highest value, then ask these questions from any vendor who is providing you disaggregation. With the statistical disaggregation, at best you can show a pie chart to your customers every month on where the trend of energy that's going. And it's okay from an education perspective. But if you're truly trying to get the value out of your data in ROI driven fashion, then true disaggregation is the key. If you want to enable other applications, like you want to target your customers for peak load of cooling or EV charging, then you cannot do that with statistical disaggregation. How does disaggregation differ from a region to region or a continent to continent? One of the questions that we also get very often is, hey, you know Texas, but do you know Florida? Or if you know Texas, do you know Europe? Short answer is, it depends. It is generally weather variations. Like if you are sitting in a very hot climate versus a very cool climate, let's say Texas and Florida versus New England, or in a moderate climate like California, that makes a big difference in the models of size of air conditioners and models. And then sometimes it's the appliance type. For example, if you are in North America and you have an electric dryer, it's a 5 kilowatt dryer. And if you go to Europe and it's an electric dryer, it's 2.5 kilowatt dryer. So it depends on the size of the various models of appliances that are prevalent in that region. If you go from Texas to France to Middle East, let's say Dubai or Riyadh, that makes a huge difference because the lifestyle, the type of appliances, and the weather makes it very, very different, right? So we are working in all of these regions, and we have experience working in 14 countries at this point. And we have built models at different appliances. And whenever we go into a new territory, which has completely different profile, we actually do a 4-month study to personalize that. The reason we have been successful in using a large amount of I would say, programmable models and the algorithms that we have built, but then we customize for that geographic region. So the new age smart meters are being built like an iPhone. And in the sense that they can have apps or applications on the meter. So Bidgely's disaggregation is already sitting at the cutting edge of distributed intelligence inside the meters in the field, going into the field where we can detect what's happening in the meter by watching the real-time events. So the AMI data that usually comes a day late allows us to run disaggregation a day later and therefore tell you what happened in your house yesterday at best, sometimes even last month, depending on the data. But when the application is sitting inside the meter and it's real time watching what's happening right now, every second we get the information from the data, from the home and what's happening, we're able to run our algorithms, learning from the cloud, put it into the meter and say, if you start charging your car right now, or if you turn on your pool pump and your AC came on, we can detect in real time it came on. And depending on the congestion of the grid or the transformer need or overloading, we can instantly send a signal back from meter through the metering cloud or the field area network is what they call, back to the cloud and then communicate with the customer. And if we are already managing their car or thermostat, we can turn it off or cycle it for maybe 5 minutes for frequency response or a few hours for peak demand response. And the closed loop makes it a highly impressive system because you're no longer dependent on customers' reaction time or non-real information. So the world and our technology going with the world is taking disaggregation to a much higher fidelity in real time. So another question we get asked very often is, do I wait for those meters? Look, this is an infrastructure development. Infrastructure doesn't develop overnight. For the first generation meters, it took 10 to 15 years for them to go into the field. The next generation meters will also take 10 to 15 years to go into the field. So if you already have AMI meters, then you start getting the value now. And when you get the upgrade to the newer meters, it will automatically be upgraded with our platform into the new age meters. So generally, I would say there is so much value in the current ecosystem of smart meters, which is even getting data overnight or next day, one day late, that you should not be waiting for the next generation meters. And when they come, you will get the high value as the meters come.